My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how my life went from a fairy tale to years of quiet, humiliation, and how I finally turned the tables. I was 24 when I met Alex. He was 26, confident, charming, and the kind of man who could make anyone feel like the center of his universe. We met at a friend's backyard barbecue on a warm summer evening. I was standing near the grill, feeling a little out of place among the crowd, when he walked up with an easy smile and said, "Hi, I'm Alex. You have the most beautiful laugh I've heard all night." We talked for hours that evening about my work as a freelance graphic designer, his job as a civil engineer, favorite movies, travel dreams, everything. By the end of the night, he had my number, and the very next day he called to ask me out for coffee. That coffee turned into dinner, then weekend getaways, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. Alex was open about his family from the start. His father had died when he was 12, leaving him as the only child to care for his mother, Elena. A few years after his father's passing, Elena had been in a severe car accident that left her with permanent spinal damage. She could walk short distances with a cane on good days, but most of the time she relied on a wheelchair. She lived on disability benefits in a small apartment 20 minutes away from Alex's house. Whenever he spoke about her, his voice softened. "She sacrificed everything for me after Dad died," he'd say. "I promised I'd always be there for her." I found that devotion deeply attractive. In a time when so many people distanced themselves from family obligations, here was a man who put his mother first without complaint. It made me admire him even more. We dated for just over a year before he proposed. It happened on a quiet evening in the same park where we'd had our first official date. He packed a picnic, spread out a blanket under the stars, and then got down on one knee. "Sarah," he said, "you've brought joy into my life I didn't know was possible. Will you marry me?" I said yes through happy tears, and we spent the rest of the night planning our future. The wedding was small but perfect. 50 guests. Soft lighting, flowers everywhere. Elena attended in her wheelchair, dressed elegantly, and even gave a short toast at the reception. "I'm so happy my son found someone as kind and patient as Sarah," she said, raising her glass. I felt truly welcomed into the family. After a short honeymoon, Alex didn't want to be away from his mother for too long. We settled into the house he had bought a couple of years earlier, a spacious single-story home with 3 bedrooms, wide doorways, and a ramp at the entrance that he'd installed just in case Mom ever needed it. The first few months of marriage were everything I'd dreamed of. We cooked together, stayed up late talking, made love whenever we felt like it, and started trying for a baby almost immediately. 6 months later, I was pregnant. When our daughter Lily was born, Alex was by my side the entire time, cutting the cord, crying as he held her for the first time. He was an amazing father from day one, up for midnight feedings, changing diapers without being asked, rocking her to sleep so I could rest. Life felt complete. Then slowly, things began to change. Elena's health started declining a little. Her apartment building raised the rent again, and between her fixed disability income and rising costs, money was getting tight. One evening, Alex came home looking worried. "Mom's struggling," he said. "The landlord is threatening eviction if she falls behind again. What if she moved in with us? The house is big enough, the ramp is already there, and I could take better care of her daily." I paused for a moment. Having a mother-in-law move in permanently is a huge step, but I saw the concern in his eyes, and I remembered how much he'd done for her over the years. "Of course," I said. "She's family. We'll make it work." Elena moved in 2 months later. We turned the ground floor guest room into her bedroom, added grab bars in her bathroom, and rearranged furniture to make everything wheelchair-friendly. At first, it seemed like a good arrangement. She helped watch Lily while I worked from home on design projects, and Alex was visibly relieved not to be rushing across town every day. But little by little, I started noticing small things. Elena had opinions, strong ones, about the way I decorated. A bit too modern. "Dear, homes should feel warm. The meals I cooked, Alex likes his potatoes mashed with the skins off. Even how I dressed. Those jeans are a little tight now that you've had the baby, aren't they?" I smiled and adjusted. I told myself she was from a different generation, that her disability made her feel less in control, and that I should be understanding. Alex began echoing her comments. If I mentioned wanting a date night, he'd say, "Mom's here now. Sarah, we can't just leave her." alone. If I spent a few hours on a big design project, he'd come home and say, "Mom noticed the dishes piled up. Maybe you could manage your time better." I started feeling like I was being gently corrected all the time. When Lily turned 2, I wanted to throw a little birthday party with my parents and siblings. Elena suggested keeping it to just the 3 of us. "Big parties are exhausting for me," she said. Alex agreed immediately. "Yeah, let's keep it simple this year." I gave in. Even though it hurt to exclude my own family, the comments grew sharper over time. Elena would say things at dinner like, "Sarah's been on her laptop all day again." In my day, mothers were present. Alex would nod and add, "Maybe you could cut back on work hours? Lily needs you more." I reminded them that my income helped pay the mortgage and Lily's future college fund, but it didn't seem to matter. I began to feel like an outsider in my own home. Every choice I made, how I parented, how I dressed, how I spent my time, was quietly judged. If I pushed back even mildly, I was being sensitive or not considering. Mom's condition. Elena's disability became an invisible shield. Any criticism of her behavior was met with, "She can't help it. She's in pain every day." I started crying in private. In the shower, in the car on the way to the grocery store, late at night when everyone else was asleep. I loved Alex. I loved Lily. I didn't want to tear the family apart. So I stayed quiet and kept trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law, but the humiliation was only beginning. What started as subtle jabs would soon become open criticism, public embarrassment, and a slow erosion of my confidence that lasted for years. I didn't know it yet, but I was building resilience with every tear. One day I would reach my limit. One day I would show them exactly who was truly unwanted in that house. By the time Lily turned 4, the subtle jabs from the first few years had hardened into a daily routine of criticism that chipped away at my confidence like water wearing down stone. What started as helpful suggestions from Elena had become open disapproval, and Alex, no longer the charming man who'd swept me off my feet, was now her loudest echo. I was no longer just adjusting to life with a live-in mother-in-law. I was living under constant scrutiny in my own home, and slowly I was becoming a stranger to myself. Elena's comments grew bolder with every passing month. Mornings often began with her wheeling into the kitchen while I was making breakfast. "Sarah, dear, those eggs are scrambled too dry. Alex has always liked them soft and fluffy, like I used to make them." I'd smile tightly, remake the eggs, and serve them without a word. If I didn't remake them, Alex would later say, "Mom's just trying to help. Why make a big deal out of eggs?" Lunchtime brought critiques of my parenting. Lily loved the little sandwiches I cut into fun shapes, hearts, stars, dinosaurs. Elena would watch me pack Lily's lunch for preschool and sigh dramatically. All that white bread and processed cheese. No wonder children today have so many allergies. In my day, we gave them real food. Alex, walking in from work or checking his phone at the table, would nod. "Yeah, Sarah, maybe switch to whole grain. Mom's got a point." I'd feel my cheeks burn. But I'd switch the bread the next day. It never ended. The goalposts kept moving. Dinners were the worst, every single night. The 3 of us, 4 once Lily was old enough to sit at the table, ate together. Elena had claimed the head of the table because it's easier for my wheelchair. I didn't fight it, but that spot gave her a stage. She'd taste whatever I'd spent an hour preparing and pull a face. Too much salt. Not enough. Seasoning. "This chicken is tough. Did you buy the cheap brand again?" Alex rarely defended the meal. Instead, he'd say things like, "Mom's palate is more sensitive because of her medication." Or, "Let's order pizza tonight. Give you a break." But the break always came with the unspoken message, "Your cooking isn't good enough." My appearance became fair game too. After Lily was born, I'd gained about 20 pounds that I couldn't seem to shake while juggling work, childcare and housework. Elena noticed immediately. "You've let yourself go a bit, haven't you?" she'd say loudly at the dinner table. "Alex deserves a wife who takes care of her figure." The first time she said it, I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. Alex chuckled awkwardly and muttered, "Mom, come on." But later that night in bed, he whispered, "You know she didn't mean it harshly. Maybe hit the gym with me next week?" I lay there in the dark, tears sliding into my pillow, wondering when my husband had stopped seeing me as beautiful. The financial comments hurt almost as much. I'd kept freelancing part-time because we needed the money. The mortgage wasn't cheap, and Lily's preschool wasn't either. But Elena framed my work as selfishness. Always on that computer, she'd complain to Alex within my earshot. A real mother would be home with her child. Alex started repeating it. Sarah, your deadlines can wait. Lily needs you more than some client does. When I pointed out that my income paid for half the bills, he'd shrug. We'd manage. Mom thinks family should come first. Slowly, guiltily, I cut my hours further. Our savings stopped growing. Alex never seemed to notice. Friends began to drift away. I used to host small get-togethers, brunch with my old college friends, playdates for Lily. But inviting anyone over became mortifying. Elena would wheel into the living room mid-conversation and announce, Sarah's house is usually much messier than this. She must have cleaned just for you. Or she'd critique another mom's parenting right in front of them. Letting your son eat that much sugar? Bold choice. My friends stopped coming. Texts went unanswered. I told myself they were just busy. But deep down I knew the truth. No one wanted to visit a house where the air felt thick with judgment. My own family felt the distance, too. My parents lived an hour away, and I tried to visit them with Lily every few weeks. But Elena would complain about being left alone all day, and Alex would guilt me. Mom gets lonely when you're gone so long. Trips grew shorter. Phone calls with my mom became my only outlet. But even those I kept brief in case Elena overheard and later commented, talking to your mother again? She spoils Lily too much on those visits. The public humiliations started small but grew unbearable. One summer we attended a neighborhood barbecue. I'd spent the morning making a pasta salad everyone usually loved. Elena tasted it in the kitchen beforehand and declared, "Too much mayonnaise. It'll give people heartburn." At the party, when someone complimented the salad, she laughed loudly and said, "Oh, Sarah tries, bless her heart. It's a little heavy, isn't it?" People chuckled politely, but I wanted to disappear. Alex just patted my shoulder later and said, "Mom was joking. Don't be so sensitive." Another time, at Lily's preschool Christmas pageant, I dressed up a little, new dress, heels, makeup. Elena looked me up and down before we left and said, "Going all out tonight, are we? Trying to catch someone's eye?" Alex didn't say a word in the car. At the event, when a dad from Lily's class complimented my dress, Elena leaned over and stage whispered, "She doesn't usually dress like that. Must be a special occasion." I spent the rest of the evening hiding in the back row, face burning. Perhaps the worst moments were when they turned Lily against me. However, unintentionally. Elena spoiled her endlessly. Extra desserts, late bedtimes, new toys whenever she cried. If I tried to enforce rules, Elena would undermine me right in front of her. "Mommy's being mean again," she'd say to Lily. "Come sit with Grandma." Lily, being a child, naturally gravitated toward the path of least resistance. By age 6, she sometimes echoed her grandmother. "Grandma says you work too much." Mommy. Hearing that from my own daughter felt like a knife. I began living in a constant state of low-level anxiety. Every morning I woke up wondering what I'd do wrong that day. I second-guessed every outfit, every meal, every parenting decision. My reflection in the mirror became a stranger. Eyes dull, shoulders slumped, smile forced. I stopped buying new clothes. I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped laughing freely. Alex didn't seem to notice the change. Or if he did, he blamed me. "You've been so moody lately. Maybe talk to Mom. She's been through depression. She'll understand." I tried talking to him, really talking, several times. Late at night, after Lily was asleep and Elena's TV was off, I'd say, "Alex, I feel like I'm drowning here. The constant criticism is wearing me down." He'd listen for a minute, then defend his mother. "She's old and in pain every day. She doesn't mean half of what she says." When I pressed that he was enabling it, he'd get angry. "You knew how close I was to my mom when you married me. You can't expect me to choose between you two." The conversation always ended with me apologizing for overreacting. Therapy crossed my mind, but I couldn't afford it with my reduced hours, and asking Alex for the money felt like another battle. Besides, Elena would have opinions about that too. Therapy is for weak people who can't handle life. Years passed this way. Lily started elementary school. I turned 30. Alex got a promotion. Outwardly, we looked like a normal family. Nice house, healthy child, stable income. But inside our walls, I was shrinking. I'd lost weight from stress, not effort. My freelance portfolio gathered dust. My confidence was in tatters. I endured because of Lily. Leaving felt impossible. Where would we go? How would I support us? And despite everything, I still loved the man Alex used to be. I kept hoping he'd wake up one day and see what was happening. I kept praying Elena's health would worsen just enough that she'd need a care facility, a horrible thought I immediately felt guilty for. I kept telling myself just a little longer, things will get better. But they didn't. They got worse. And the worst was still ahead. Moments of cruelty. I never imagined my husband capable of public scenes that left me shattered, and a final straw that forced me to stop enduring and start planning. Deep inside, a small spark of anger had begun to burn. I wasn't broken yet. I was bending, but I hadn't snapped. And one day soon, that spark would become a fire. As the years wore on, the constant criticism that had defined my daily life began to cross lines I never thought possible. What was once passive-aggressive, comments and subtle undermining evolved into outright cruelty. Public betrayals and moments of such deep humiliation that they shattered whatever fragments of hope I had left. Alex, the man I had fallen in love with, was no longer just enabling his mother, he was actively participating, choosing her over me time and time again. And Lily, my sweet daughter, was growing up in this toxic environment, slowly absorbing the dynamic that painted me as the perpetual outsider. Lily was now 8, bright and sensitive, with Alex's dark hair and my green eyes. She was doing well in school, had a few close friends, and loved art just like I did. But at home, the atmosphere was poisoning everything. Elena had grown more demanding as her mobility decreased slightly with age. She needed more help with bathing, dressing, and even eating on bad days. Alex took on most of it willingly, but he started expecting me to drop everything too. "Mom needs you to help her with her shower," he'd say while I was in the middle of a work call. If I hesitated, Elena would call out loudly, "Don't worry, Alex. Sarah's too busy for an old crippled woman like me." The cruelty peaked in small, vicious ways. One evening, I came home from picking Lily up from dance class, exhausted but happy because she'd gotten a solo in her recital. I walked in carrying groceries and Lily's bag, only to find Elena in the living room with Alex, showing him old photo albums. "Look at this one," Elena said loudly as I entered. "That's Alex's ex-girlfriend from college, Rebecca." Now she was a real beauty. Long legs, perfect figure. She knew how to take care of herself. Alex laughed and added, "Yeah, Rebecca was something else. Great cook, too." I stood there, bags in hand, feeling my face heat up. Lily looked confused. I forced a smile and went to the kitchen, but inside, I was crumbling. That night, after Lily was in bed, I confronted Alex. "Why did you let her say that? Comparing me to your ex in front of Lily?" He sighed, rolling his eyes. "Mom was just reminiscing. You're overreacting again. Rebecca was part of my past. It's not a big deal." When I pressed that, it felt deliberately hurtful. He snapped, "You know, if you lost the rest of that baby weight like Rebecca did after her kid, maybe Mom wouldn't feel the need to point it out." I slept on the couch that night, tears soaking the pillow. The next day, I joined a gym. Not for them, for me. But even that backfired, Elena commented, finally doing something about it. "Good for you." The public humiliations became more frequent and brazen. At a family gathering for Alex's cousin's wedding, Elena wheeled herself over to a group of relatives during cocktail hour and announced, "Sarah's been so forgetful lately. She left the stove on twice last month, nearly burned the house down. If I wasn't here to notice, who knows what would happen." It wasn't true. I'd forgotten to turn off a burner once, and she'd never let it go. Everyone looked at me awkwardly. Alex, standing nearby with a drink, just shrugged and said, "Mom exaggerates, but yeah, Sarah's been distracted with work." Laughter rippled through the group. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried, fixing my makeup before returning with a fake smile. Another incident happened at Lily's school open house. Parents were milling around classrooms, looking at projects. I'd helped Lily with a beautiful diorama of the solar system. We'd spent weeks on it. Her teacher praised it highly. But as we walked through the hall, Elena, who Alex had insisted on bringing, stopped at another child's display and said loudly to the teacher, "This one is so creative." Lily's was nice, but it looked a bit rushed. "Sarah works a lot, you know, doesn't have as much time for these things." The teacher looked uncomfortable, and other parents overheard. Alex didn't correct her. He just changed the subject. On the drive home, I whispered angrily, "Why didn't you say something?" He replied, "It's not worth starting a fight in public. Mom's proud of Lily in her own way." But the worst betrayal came during a dinner with Alex's work colleagues. He'd been promoted to senior engineer, and we hosted a small dinner party at home. 6 couples, nice wine, the works. I'd spent days planning the menu, cleaning, decorating. Everything was perfect until dessert. Elena wheeled in dramatically and declared, "Sarah tried a new recipe tonight. Brave of her, usually her cooking is so basic." One of the wives laughed politely. But then Elena continued, "Alex and I joke that without me here, they'd be living on takeout. Isn't that right, son?" Alex, tipsy from wine, chuckled and said, "Mom's not wrong. She's the real chef in the family." The room went silent for a beat before awkward conversation resumed. I felt every eye on me, pity mixed with amusement. I excused myself to the kitchen, pretending to check on coffee, and stood there shaking with rage and shame. Later, when the guests left, I exploded at Alex, the first real fight in years. "How could you humiliate me like that in front of your colleagues?" "In our home?" He got defensive immediately. "It was a joke, Sarah. Lighten up. Mom was just being Mom." When I said it wasn't funny, and that he'd sided with her again, he yelled, "You're always making everything about you. Mom's disabled. She can't work or go out. Let her have her little comments. You're healthy. You can take it." Elena, listening from her room, called out, "Thank you. Alex, at least someone appreciates me." I locked myself in our bedroom that night. Alex slept on the couch. These incidents piled up, each one stripping away more of my dignity. Financially, things tightened too. Alex started giving Elena a larger allowance from our joint account for personal expenses, without discussing it with me. When I questioned a big withdrawal, he said, "She's my mother. She needs things, special creams, outings. You wouldn't understand." My freelance work had dwindled to almost nothing, because every time I took a project, Elena would accidentally interrupt calls or complain about noise, and Alex would ask me to prioritize family. Lily started showing signs of the strain. She'd come home from school and ask why. Grandma always said Mommy was tired or messy. One day she repeated something. Elena had said, "Grandma says you're not as good a mom as she was." It broke my heart. I hugged her and said, "Grandma loves you very much." But sometimes grown-ups say things they don't mean. But inside, I was furious. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was affecting my daughter. I began secretly saving money, a little from each grocery budget, small freelance gigs I did late at night when everyone slept. I opened a separate bank account Alex didn't know about. I started therapy online, using headphones during naps. My therapist helped me see the abuse for what it was: emotional, verbal, and financial. She encouraged me to document everything: the comments, the incidents, the finances. The final straw came unexpectedly on what should have been a celebratory day. It was our 10th wedding anniversary. I'd hoped Alex would plan something special, but he didn't mention it until the morning of. "Oh yeah, happy anniversary," he said over coffee. "Mom wants to go to her favorite restaurant. Tonight, let's take her out to celebrate all of us." I was stunned. "Alex, it's our anniversary. Just you and me?" Elena chimed in from the living room. "Selfish as always." "Sarah, anniversaries are for family." Alex agreed. "Come on. It's been 10 years. Mom's part of that too." That night at the restaurant, Elena dominated the conversation, telling stories of Alex's childhood, barely acknowledging me. When the waiter brought a complimentary dessert for anniversaries, Elena said loudly, "That's sweet. But Sarah probably shouldn't. Watching her figure, right, Alex?" Alex smirked and nodded. Something inside me snapped. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and called my sister. "I can't do this anymore," I sobbed. She said, "Come stay with us. Bring Lily, you've endured enough." But I didn't leave that night. I went back to the table, smiled through the rest of dinner, and started planning in earnest. I contacted a lawyer quietly. I gathered evidence, recordings I'd started making of Elena's worst comments, bank statements, emails. I rebuilt my freelance portfolio in secret, reaching out to old clients. The spark of rebellion had ignited into a steady flame. I was done being the unwanted one, the punching bag, the afterthought. They had humiliated me for the last time. Now it was my turn to show them what happens when you push someone too far. Who was truly unwanted in this family. The revenge was coming, calculated and cold, and it would change everything. After that disastrous anniversary dinner, something fundamental shifted inside me. The tears dried up almost overnight. The constant knot of anxiety in my stomach didn't vanish, but it transformed into a cold, focused determination. I was done begging for respect. I was done shrinking to make them comfortable. For 10 years, I had twisted myself into knots, trying to be the perfect wife and daughter-in-law, and all it had earned me was contempt. Now, I was going to protect myself and my daughter, no matter what it took. The first thing I did was stop reacting. No more tearful confrontations, no more pleading with Alex to see my side. I went quiet and observant. I smiled at Elena's barbs, nodded at Alex's criticisms, and let them think they had won. Inside, I was building a fortress. I doubled down on my secret planning. The separate bank account I had opened grew steadily. I took on freelance graphic design jobs only at night, after everyone was asleep, or during Lily's school hours when Elena napped. Old clients were thrilled to hear from me again. Word spread quietly in my professional network, and soon I had a steady stream of projects, logos, website banners, marketing materials. I invoiced electronically, got paid via direct deposit to my hidden account, and never breathed a word of it at home. Within 6 months, I had saved nearly $20,000, enough for a security deposit, first month's rent, and basic furniture somewhere safe. I reconnected with my family in subtle ways. My sister Emma became my lifeline. We texted in code at first. "How's the garden growing?" meant, "How much have you saved?" She and her husband offered me their guest room, indefinitely if I needed to leave quickly. My parents, who had sensed something was wrong for years but never pushed, finally heard the full story during a girls' day with just me, my mom and Lily. My mother cried. My father, a quiet man, said only, "You come home the minute you're ready. We'll handle the rest." Knowing I had their unconditional support gave me strength I hadn't felt in years. Therapy continued online, twice a week. My therapist specialized in emotional abuse and narcissistic family dynamics. She helped me understand that Elena's behavior wasn't just old age or pain, it was manipulative control, and Alex's refusal to set boundaries was complicity. She taught me phrases to use if confronted, ways to document everything without escalating, and most importantly, that leaving wasn't failure, it was survival. I started preparing Lily gently. At 9 years old, she was old enough to notice tension, but too young to understand its depth. I began framing small changes. Mommy's going to be working more from home soon so we can have extra fun money for trips. I took her on solo outings. Ice cream dates, park picnics, museum visits, just the two of us. I wanted her to remember that her mother was fun, capable and loving, not the tired, criticized shadow she saw at home. She started opening up. "Grandma says you're grumpy a lot," I'd reply calmly. "Grandma sees things one way. But Mommy loves you more than anything." And sometimes grown-ups disagree. I planted seeds without bad-mouthing. Elena or Alex, Lily would figure out the truth in time. Legally, I moved carefully. I consulted a divorce attorney, recommended by my therapist, one who offered a free initial consultation and payment plans. We met in a coffee shop 40 minutes away, always during school hours. She advised gathering evidence quietly, bank statements showing Alex's unilateral transfers to Elena, screenshots of texts where he dismissed my concerns, recordings, legal in our one-party consent state, of particularly vicious comments from Elena. I kept a detailed journal, dates, times, exact quotes, witnesses if any. The lawyer said we had a strong case for primary custody, given the emotional abuse and Lily's established routine with me as primary caregiver. I also prepared the practical side of escape. I scanned and uploaded every important document, birth certificates, social security cards, tax returns, house deed, car title, to a secure cloud folder only I could access. I made copies of keys. I researched apartments in good school districts near my parents, bookmarked moving companies, even priced short-term storage units. I created a go bag hidden in my car trunk, clothes for me and Lily, toiletries, favorite toys, cash, and our documents. At home, the dynamic continued unchanged because I let it. Elena grew bolder, sensing my silence as surrender. She'd wheel into my home office, formerly the spare bedroom I'd converted, and complain about all this clutter while I worked. She'd tell Alex I was hiding away again. Alex, stressed from his promotion, leaned harder on his mother for emotional support and harder on me for everything else. Intimacy between us had died years ago. We were roommates at best. He barely noticed I'd lost weight, started dressing better, and carried myself with new confidence, and was too busy catering to Elena's latest complaints. One weekend, Elena demanded a full family outing to a lakeside restaurant 2 hours away. For old times' sake, Alex jumped at the idea. I agreed pleasantly, then used the alone time at home to photograph every room, every valuable item, and the accessible modifications we'd made for Elena: ramp, bathroom bars, widened doors. My lawyer said this would help prove the house was originally purchased by Alex, pre-marriage and modified for his mother, key in asset division. I also began quietly rebuilding my identity outside the house. I joined a local women's networking group under the pretense of professional development. Took evening yoga classes twice a week. Alex grumbled about babysitting but didn't stop me. I made new friends who knew nothing of my home life, who saw me as competent, funny, creative Sarah, not the downtrodden version Elena and Alex had created. Their encouragement fueled me. The hardest part was watching Lily navigate the tension. Elena spoiled her rotten to maintain allegiance. Toys, sweets, relaxed rules. Alex backed his mother every time. When Lily once said, "Daddy, why is Grandma always mad at Mommy?" Alex replied, "Grandma's just worried about us. Mommy works too much sometimes." It stung, but I didn't correct him in front of her. Instead, I doubled my private time with Lily, reading together, doing art projects, talking about her dreams. She started saying things like, "I wish it was just you and me sometimes." Mommy. Those words broke and healed my heart simultaneously. As my secret account grew past 30,000, I set a date, Lily's 10th birthday, 4 months away. I'd file the day after, when Alex was at work and Elena at her weekly physical therapy appointment. Emma would help me move essentials to a rented apartment I'd secure in advance. I also prepared the practical side of escape. I scanned and uploaded every important document: birth certificates, social security cards, tax returns, house deed, car title, to a secure cloud folder only I could access. I made copies of keys. I researched apartments in good school districts near my parents, bookmarked moving companies, even priced short-term storage units. I created a go bag hidden in my car trunk, clothes for me and Lily, toiletries, favorite toys, cash, and our documents. At home, the dynamic continued unchanged because I let it. Elena grew bolder, sensing my silence as surrender. She'd wheel into my home office, formerly the spare bedroom I'd converted, and complain about all this clutter while I worked. She'd tell Alex I was hiding away again. Alex, stressed from his promotion, leaned harder on his mother for emotional support and harder on me for everything else. Intimacy between us had died years ago. We were roommates at best. He barely noticed I'd lost weight, started dressing better, and carried myself with new confidence, and was too busy catering to Elena's latest complaints. One weekend, Elena demanded a full family outing to a lakeside restaurant 2 hours away. For old times' sake, Alex jumped at the idea. I agreed pleasantly, then used the alone time at home to photograph every room, every valuable item, and the accessible modifications we'd made for Elena: ramp, bathroom bars, widened doors. My lawyer said this would help prove the house was originally purchased by Alex, pre-marriage and modified for his mother, key in asset division. I also began quietly rebuilding my identity outside the house. I joined a local women's networking group under the pretense of professional development. Took evening yoga classes twice a week. Alex grumbled about babysitting but didn't stop me. I made new friends who knew nothing of my home life, who saw me as competent, funny, creative Sarah, not the downtrodden version Elena and Alex had created. Their encouragement fueled me. The hardest part was watching Lily navigate the tension. Elena spoiled her rotten to maintain allegiance: toys, sweets, relaxed rules. Alex backed his mother every time. When Lily once said, "Daddy, why is Grandma always mad at Mommy?" Alex replied, "Grandma's just worried about us. Mommy works too much sometimes." It stung, but I didn't correct him in front of her. Instead, I doubled my private time with Lily, reading together, doing art projects, talking about her dreams. She started saying things like, "I wish it was just you and me sometimes." Mommy. Those words broke and healed my heart simultaneously. As my secret account grew past 30,000, I set a date, Lily's 10th birthday, 4 months away. I'd file the day after, when Alex was at work and Elena at her weekly physical therapy appointment. Emma would help me move essentials to a rented apartment I'd secure in advance. That final weekend was a masterclass in restraint. I cooked meals, cleaned the house, helped Elena when asked, all with a pleasant, detached smile. Alex kept throwing verbal jabs. "Enjoy your little rebellion while it lasts. Mom's not going anywhere." Elena added her own venom. "You'll be back crawling in no time, dear. Women like you don't survive alone." I didn't respond. I just kept packing secret boxes in the garage, labeled "Old Clothes for Donation," filled with Lily's and my essentials. Monday morning arrived crisp and clear. Alex left for work at 7:30, kissing Lily goodbye but ignoring me completely. Elena was picked up at 9 for her therapy, appointment that would last until noon. The movers arrived at 9:15, too quiet, efficient guys who understood discretion. By 11 everything we needed was loaded. Beds, clothes, toys, my computer, important files, photo albums, Lily's artwork. I left the house spotless, furniture in place, nothing obviously missing except our personal belongings. Before leaving, I placed 3 envelopes on the kitchen table. One for Alex, the divorce papers, already filed with the court that morning. A cover letter from my attorney outlining the grounds, irreconcilable differences, emotional abuse, financial mismanagement, and my requests: primary custody of Lily, child support, alimony for 3 years to allow me to rebuild my career, and half the equity in the house, which would force a sale or refinance. One for Elena, a formal eviction notice. The house was in Alex's name only, premarital asset. But since she had never paid rent or contributed financially, she had no legal tenancy rights. She had 30 days to vacate. The third was a short handwritten note from me. Alex and Elena. For 10 years, I tried to be the perfect wife and daughter-in-law. I welcomed Elena into our home, sacrificed my career, my confidence, my happiness, everything to keep this family together. In return, you both humiliated me daily, undermined me as a mother, controlled our finances, and treated me like an unwanted guest in my own life. Today I leave. Lily and I are starting fresh. Somewhere you will never find us until the courts say otherwise. I've taken only what belongs to us. The house is yours to deal with. Mortgage, upkeep, Elena's care, all of it. You spent years telling me, directly and indirectly, that I was unwanted. Today I show you who is truly unwanted here. Goodbye, Sarah. I locked the door behind me, dropped the house key in the mailbox for Alex, and drove away without looking back. Emma met me at the new apartment with Lily, who was thrilled about the surprise new home. My parents arrived an hour later with groceries, pizza, and open arms. We spent the evening unpacking essentials, hanging Lily's drawings on the fridge, and watching her face light up at having her own bright bedroom. For the first time in years, I laughed, really laughed, when Lily declared our tiny balcony the best castle tower ever. Alex's reaction came faster than expected. He blew up my phone starting at 12:45, first confusion, then rage, then pleading. I didn't answer. My attorney had instructed me to communicate only through her. By evening, voicemails piled up. How could you do this to Lily? Mom's hysterical. You've destroyed her. Come home, we'll talk. I listened to one, just to hear the panic in his voice. Then blocked his number temporarily. Elena apparently had a full meltdown at therapy, refusing to return to the house until that woman comes back to take care of me. The facility called Alex to pick her up early. Neighbors later told my sister they heard shouting from the house late into the night. The fallout unfolded over the next weeks like sweet, measured justice. Alex tried to fight the divorce, claiming I'd abandoned the marital home. My lawyer countered with years of documented emotional abuse, recordings of Elena's cruelest comments, bank records showing his unilateral transfers to his mother, and Lily's pediatrician notes about her increasing anxiety. The judge granted temporary primary custody to me and ordered supervised visitation for Alex until a full hearing. Financial reality hit Alex hard. Without my freelance income, which he'd always downplayed, and with the mortgage solely on him, he struggled. He begged family members for help with Elena's care. But most were tired of her demands over the years. Within 2 months, he had to hire a full-time aide, costing more than my alimony request. The house went on the market 6 months later. He accepted a low offer just to unload it. Elena's situation deteriorated fastest. No relatives wanted her full-time. Assisted living facilities were expensive, and her disability benefits didn't cover the best ones. She ended up in a state-funded home 2 hours away, decent, but nothing like the luxury of controlling our household. Alex visited when he could, but guilt and resentment strained their relationship. She reportedly spent months telling anyone who would listen that her wicked daughter-in-law stole everything. But fewer and fewer people sympathized once the full story emerged. Lily and I, meanwhile, thrived. I scaled my freelance business into a full design studio. Working from home while Lily was at school, we took art classes together, traveled to see my parents every weekend at first, then every holiday. Therapy helped Lily process the changes. She slowly understood that Grandma's and Daddy's behavior wasn't her fault or mine. She began calling our apartment the happy house, and hearing that healed something deep inside me. Alex eventually accepted the settlement, joint custody with Lily splitting time evenly once he stabilized, fair child support, and alimony for 2 years. He moved into a small apartment, sold most possessions to cover debts, and started attending co-parenting counseling. He apologized, genuinely, tearfully, during one mediated session. "I didn't see what I was doing to you," he said. "I thought I was protecting Mom, but I lost my family." I accepted the apology for Lily's sake, but I never looked back with regret. 2 years later, Lily and I live in a sunny 3-bedroom house we bought together. My credit rebuilt. My business booming. Lily, now 12, is confident, artistic, and fiercely protective of me. She sees her father regularly. Their relationship has healed in its own way. Elena passed away quietly last year. Alex sent flowers to our door with a simple note. "I'm sorry for everything." I placed them on the table, felt nothing but closure, and moved on. People sometimes ask if I regret the marriage, the years lost. I don't. Those dark years forged me into someone unbreakable. They taught me my worth, my strength, and the fierce love I have for my daughter. And most importantly, they taught me that when someone spends years showing you you're unwanted, the most powerful response isn't anger or tears. It's walking away, building a beautiful life without them, and letting them live with the consequences of their cruelty. I was never the unwanted one. They were.